Welcome to a journey through the history and significance of Pan Africanism. Pan Africanism is an ideology advocating for solidarity among African people to ensure economic and political progress. It's often described as a form of pan-nationalism. The ideology has two main principles: establishing an African nation and sharing a common culture. These principles form the basis of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanists believe in advocating for African rights and the protection of African culture and history. This ideology has had a significant impact globally, including on the civil rights movement in the late 1960s. Hey there, history enthusiasts. Ever wondered about the evolution of the Pan-African Congress? Let's dive into its fascinating journey. After a period of fading from the world stage, the Pan-African Congress was revitalized in 1945 with the Fifth Congress held in Manchester, England. This revival marked a significant shift in leadership, transitioning from African Americans to prominent African figures like Nkrumah, Kenyatta, and Padmore, with Du Bois being the only African American present. Following World War II, the movement's focus shifted to the concerns of the African continent, leading to the formation of the Organization for African Unity, OAU, in 1963. The OAU's successor, the African Union AU, was established in 2002, further promoting the integration of Africa. While calls for Pan-Africanism persisted in the United States, the movement came to symbolize the unity of sub-Saharan African countries. The Pan-African Congress's journey is a testament to the evolving landscape of African unity. Stay tuned for more captivating insights into historical milestones. Welcome to a brief history of the Pan-African Congress movement. In 1900, the first meeting to discuss Pan-Africanist ideas was organized by Henry Sylvester Williams in London. This gathering brought together prominent individuals from Africa, Great Britain, the West Indies, and the United States, including Du Bois. The first formal Pan-African Congress took place in 1919 in Paris, followed by a second Congress 2 years later in London, Brussels, and Paris. The Second Congress resulted in a declaration criticizing European colonial domination in Africa and advocating for fairer global resource distribution. From the 1920s through the 1940s, prominent Black intellectuals like CLR, James and George Padmore advocated Pan-Africanist ideas, drawing inspiration from African American culture. This exchange of ideas between intellectuals and African Americans formed a Black Atlantic intellectual community. By the late 1940s, African Americans took a step back from the movement, with Africans assuming leadership. This shift was influenced by the Red Scare in the United States, leading to the rise of Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana as a key figure in the movement. In the late 1960s and 70s, Pan-Africanist cultural thinking re-emerged in the United States as part of the Black Power movement. African Americans began to explore their African cultural roots and adopt African forms of cultural practice. In subsequent decades, the Afrocentric movement gained prominence, emphasizing African modes of thought and culture as a corrective to European domination. This movement was championed by influential Black intellectuals like Molefi Asante, Cheikh Anta Diop, Carter G. Woodson, and Maulana Ron Karenga. Welcome to a journey through the history of Pan-Africanist intellectuals. In the mid-19th century, Pan-Africanist ideas emerged in the United States, led by influential figures like Martin Delany, Alexander Crummell, and Edward Blyden. Delany advocated for the separation of African Americans from the United States, while Crummell and Blyden believed Africa was the best place for a new nation. W.E.B. Du Bois, a prominent thinker, was a consistent advocate for the study of African history and culture. His famous statement, "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line," reflected Pan-Africanist sentiments and extended beyond the United States to include the suffering of Africans under European colonial rule. Jamaican-born Black nationalist Marcus Garvey, a significant Pan-Africanist thinker, championed African independence and emphasized the positive attributes of Black people's collective past. His organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, envisioned a return back to Africa and boasted millions of members. The history of Pan-Africanist intellectuals is a rich tapestry of ideas and movements that have left a lasting impact on the global struggle for equality and justice. Pan-Africanism, the idea that peoples of African descent have common interests and should be unified, has a rich history. It began to circulate in the mid-19th century in the United States, led by influential figures such as Martin Delany, Alexander Crummell, and Edward Blyden. The movement gained momentum with the influential thinker W.E.B. Du Bois, who advocated for the study of African history and culture. In the late 1940s, Africans took the lead, with Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana playing a pivotal role in advocating for African unity. The movement experienced a resurgence in the late 1960s and 70s as part of the Black Power movement, and later with the Afrocentric movement. The Pan-African Congress movement also made significant efforts to institutionalize Pan-Africanist ideas, culminating in the formation of the African Union in 2002. While the movement's focus has shifted, calls for Pan-Africanism can still be heard, emphasizing the unity of the countries on the African continent.